How to get rich starting from nothing. Whoa, wait a second. If it was that easy, everybody would be rich. Dan, stop this video right now. The only way to get rich is either by becoming a celebrity, becoming a famous music artist like Drake or something like that, becoming a professional athlete. There's just no other way. Well, let me tell you, my name is Dan, and in this video today, I'm gonna discuss a topic that has fascinated me my entire life. Ever since I was younger, I've always been blown away when I heard about people who started from nothing and really created massive success in their lives. I realized that the common path that they all took was entrepreneurship. And we're not talking about the Post Malones, the Drakes, the NBA players. I realized that as I started to listen to more and more interviews, as I started to read more and more biographies and books written by successful people, I started to see that it was somehow possible. You didn't have to have a special talent. You didn't have to, become Drake or, have some crazy talent for like basketball or hockey or any of that. As I listened to more and more interviews, I started to see a pattern and I started to realize, like in my brain, something switched. I saw that it was actually possible to start from nothing and become crazy successful. In today's society, we have this kind of weird limiting belief that if you want to get rich, you have to either win the lottery or you have to become a professional basketball player, professional athlete, hockey player, or a celebrity like Drake or Post Malone. And for some reason, we think that becoming rich by actually starting a business that provides real products and services that provide value to people and doing that, sticking with it, scaling, building that business and getting rich that way, for some reason as a society, we think that's next to impossible and the chances of succeeding are very, very low. We think that most rich people today were born in trust funds, they were born in families with money, or they had some kind of crazy family connections, or they were chosen by all the gods that they were gonna get rich, they were lucky, right? We can't even accept the fact that, hey, you can start a business and you can succeed doing it that way if you actually build something that the market values and the market appreciates. So as I started to look into this more and more, I just refused to believe that the only way to get rich was to be born in a rich family or to have some family connections or something like that. I realized that as a society, all of these cases that we think are basically the main way, the best way to get rich, being born in a trust fund or having family connections or something like that, that's actually the minority of cases. According to the latest statistics, over 80% of millionaires actually started from nothing, literally from zero, from being completely broke. If we look at billionaires, over 2/3 started from nothing, with the rest of millionaires and billionaires, so 20% of millionaires and 1/3 of billionaires, actually being born into wealth, what we call trust fund kids. For example, Grant Cardone, and we all know Grant Cardone, he's incredibly famous today, went from being a broke, deadbeat drug addict, almost dying at the age of 25 from his drug addiction, to basically creating a net worth of over $300 million and having a real estate fund with over a $1 billion valuation today. Dan Lok, he came from China, not knowing any word of English. He came completely broke with his family as an immigrant to Canada, and he started from zero, and today he's built a net worth of over $50 million, and it's honestly crazy. He posts every day, and he's created an empire. Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm sure you know him. He came from the Soviet Union, and he came to New York with absolutely nothing, and today his net worth is over $160 million. And some other examples, Jack Ma, broke teacher in China, to creating Alibaba and having a net worth of over $38 billion today. Elon Musk, born in South Africa, moved to Canada with nothing, got a labor job cleaning a boiler in a lumber mill, which was absolutely disgusting and terrible. I read his biography, and today he has a net worth of over $20.1 billion, and he's the founder of Tesla, PayPal, and SpaceX. And these are just some of the examples of successful people who started from literally nothing, from being broke, from being homeless, from being a drug addict, and then building a massive empire and massive wealth in their lives. So the question is, okay, well, Dan, what is the best way, the best method to actually get rich the fastest or in a relatively fast way? Now, before we do that, we have to define rich, because rich actually means something different for all of us, right? Rich can mean $1 million, or for someone else, it can mean $3 million, or it can also mean 5 million, 10 million, 100 million, or even $1 billion, right? Everybody has different goals. Everybody wants a different level of wealth. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to select the goal of $1 million. We're going to define that as rich, because I believe with $1 million, you can have a really amazing life. And also, if you manage your finances correctly, if you manage your money correctly, you're going to be able to basically make passive income for the rest of your life, and you won't have to work another day. Now, before we get into the best method, I want to start with my own story, my own experience first. I'm now 23 years old, and at 20 years old, I was completely broke. I was $40,000 in college debt. I was miserable, basically borderline depressed. I had no idea what to do. I was in a college in Canada, and since then, at the age of 22, which was 1 year ago, I made my first $1 million online. And now at 23, I'm aiming for much higher than that. And if we look at the majority of wealthy people, the majority of people who actually got rich, they're not these, Drakes or Post Malones or NBA players. They're not people with some kind of special talent or just something that really distinguishes them from the rest, from other everyday people. They're normal people who decided to start a business that provides valuable products or services to the market. And that's how they got rich. And that's exactly my case. I started my first business cleaning windows, knocking door to door, and I didn't even know how to clean the windows. I went on YouTube and basically typed in how to clean windows properly, and then I just watched tutorial videos of people that posted that. And so that was my first business. And so I made some money doing that. And at the age of 21, I started my first online business because I knew online business was the way to go. And so basically it was an Amazon FBA business, and then I hit 30K per month, multiple six figures per year with that. And then after that, at the age of 22, I started ecomfreedom.com, which is the world's #1 online education platform for helping people start a successful online business and retrain their mindset. And with all these businesses combined, I'm now aiming for 8 figures per year, which is $10 million per year. So as you can see, I'm definitely not someone with some kind of special talent or anything like that. I started just like yourself, you watching today. I literally was in your shoes. And before I started my first business, I actually was working at a bank. And technically, I could have kept working at the bank. I was making about $40,000 per year. The average salary here in Canada, I think it's about $50,000, $51,000 for a bank position. And so I could have just, worked as an analyst. And most people actually, if they spend their entire lives working a 9-to-5 job, in about 40 years, they'll actually make $1 million. So in that case, everybody gets rich. But the purpose of this video is not to get rich, basically at 80 years old. The purpose of this video is to actually, get rich relatively young and be able to live a life that you want to live, not spending your days wasting them in a cubicle, basically hating your life every single day, going to a job that you just dread waking up to an alarm to go to. And so if we look at all the methods of actually getting rich, the first method was the one that I just described, working at a bank. And so that's our first method. So if we look at that method, right, certainly not the best method, but definitely, works for some people. You would have to go and basically you'd go to the best university, and then you would try to get the best possible job in an international company, preferably at a bank, at an investment firm, an investment company, and basically just grind your way to the top, suck up to your boss, go to all the meetings, go to all the, the lunches, the dinners, right, the business dinners, wear a suit to work every single day, and basically just fight your way to 6 figures, and then basically make $1 million. And if you're lucky, maybe in 30 years, you'll make $1 million. In 40 years, maybe, if you're not so lucky, in 50 years, you'll make $1 million by the time you retire, and then you'll have a few years left to die. And this only works if you love studying. This only works if you're really, really good at school, at university, and if you're really, really good at basically following all those rules and being in school, going to class, and also, just progressing in a corporate environment. So that's our first method, not very effective. We're basically selling our life for money until the end of time. And so method number 2 is we do the exact same thing. We work at a corporate job for 40 years until 65, 70, we retire, except one thing that we do differently is we take our paycheck and we save like crazy. We're basically become incredibly cheap, incredibly frugal. We don't go to Starbucks. We don't buy $5 lattes anymore. We don't go on expensive vacations. We drive a 1996 Toyota Camry, and we basically take all that money that we're saving and we put it into mutual funds, or we invest it into some kind of a fund that promises us that we're going to make 6 to 7% per year. And that, if we're lucky, then we're going to be able to reap the rewards of compound interest, as we've all heard those beautiful words, compound interest. And so maybe through that, if we invest for 20, 30 years with all of the right investors, and if we trust our money to Wall Street, then we will make $1 million, we'll get rich. And then we move on to number 3, and that is starting a business that actually sells a product or service that provides real value to people, which allows us to do the golden thing, which is to allow us to separate our time from our money. And if we follow this method and we separate our time from our income, so we don't have to basically sell our time at an hourly wage, and it's not tied to how much money we're making. So instead we're creating systems and automating them and scaling them. And so basically totally disconnecting the money that we make from the hours that we work. Now our financial results don't have anything to do with time anymore. And so obviously, looking at the 3 methods, we can clearly see the winner, which is number 3, starting a business that allows us to separate our time from our income. Now I want to share a statistic with you that's really going to hit home right now, and that is in the United States, and we're just talking about the US, there are 700,000 new millionaires every single year. And every single day, if we break it down into days, that's 2,000 new millionaires every single day. And we're almost certain that most of these millionaires are following step number 3, right? Because a lot of these are relatively young. These millionaires become and actually do it relatively young, and they start a business that provides real value through a product or service. And they do that by allowing their time to be separate from their money, basically being able to scale to the sky, right? The sky is the limit at that point. And so through following step number 3, they become millionaires, and they join that statistic of 2,000 new millionaires every single day and 700,000 per year only in the US. So now I'm going to give you 2 business models that I personally follow, that I personally practice every single day, and that I use to actually make my first million at the age of 22, which allowed me to separate my time from my money. So the 2 business models that I use to make my first million at the age of 22 both involve e-commerce, so building online stores and selling products online. And they're actually very similar, with some important key differences that make each one better for people in certain situations. Like, for example, one particular method might be better for someone with a lower starting budget, another one might be better for someone with a higher starting budget, or another one of them might be better for someone with, who likes running ads, or someone who just likes branding a product. And by the way, of course, I'm simplifying the numbers here, but I just want to make this as simple as possible for you, just so you have a better idea of how this works. So let's say I start selling a product, like for example, barbecue gloves, on my online store, and I go and I create an online store on a website, let's say barbecuepro.com. And these barbecue gloves, they're very nice, they're high quality, they're premium, and so I start selling them at $30 per pair. Now the same gloves cost me $5 from China to actually buy, right? Because things are cheaper when they come from China. And if you look at 99% of things around you in society, most of them come from China. And they're bought for cheaper from China, and they're resold basically in other parts of the world for much more expensive, generating a profit, right? This is basic business. And so let's say it costs me $10 to get a customer from Facebook ads or Instagram ads to actually buy the gloves. And so what happens is a customer will see my ad as they're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram on their feed. They'll visit the store on the website, they'll buy the gloves, which cost $30, and then I pay the Chinese supplier $5 and then $10 for the Facebook ads, generating a profit of $15. So now what happens is I have a system where I know that if I spend money, I'll actually make more money back, generating me a profit. So all I have to do is figure out a way to spend more money on the ads to make more profit. I don't really have to figure out anything. It's actually very, very easy, because spending more money on the ads, it doesn't take me more time to do. I don't have to work twice as hard or work twice as many hours to make more money like people who work the 9-to-5 corporate job, right? I just have to go on Facebook, on my Facebook ads manager. I have to click one button, change one setting, which is the ad budget setting on Facebook, and boom, instead of spending only $10 a day, let's say, I'm spending $100 a day. And so let's say if I was spending $10 a day on ads, that would have gotten me a profit of $15, right? Because I would have sold one pair. And at $100 a day, that would have gotten me a profit of $150. And then at $1,000 a day in ads, so I'm spending $1,000 a day every single day in ads, that would make me a profit of $1,500, $1,500. And there you go, boom, this business model is called Shopify dropshipping, and it allows you to separate your time from money, and you can start without having to buy any inventory or take any huge risks. And you can start with as little as $200 to $300 depending on your Facebook ad performance, obviously how good your ads are, and also how good your product is. You always want to make sure that you're selling like a good product, because there's a lot of shitty products coming out of China, and you don't want to be that person that is selling something that really doesn't have any value for people and for any market. So if I took those same barbecue gloves and I decided to do something different, I decided to launch them on Amazon.com, which is obviously the world's biggest e-commerce store, and most sellers on there are actually third-party sellers, which means people like you and me who decided to just go and sell products online on Amazon. And in this case, I would need to have some more money to start. So instead of just having $200 to $300 for just the Facebook ads, because with Shopify dropshipping, as I said, we're not taking any risk because we don't have to buy any inventory, right? Only when a customer pays us, then we actually go, someone pays us $30, and then we actually go and pay $5 to the supplier and then $10 for the Facebook ads. So we only win if the customer actually pays us first, which is great. But with Amazon, I actually have to order in bulk, because you can't dropship on Amazon. Well, you actually could, but it's really against the TOS, and I don't recommend you do that. But in this case, you would need about $1,000, $1,500 to order, let's say 300 units as a test order, just to start with. And so I buy them, the 300 units, I put my logo on them, let's say Barbecue Pros, and then I have them shipped from China directly to the Amazon warehouse. And so I start using strategies to actually rank the product, specifically using Amazon's PPC, which is their pay-per-click service. And let's say I sell them for the same price on Amazon for $30, and it costs me the same, $5 from China, and roughly $10 in Amazon fees for the shipping, the packaging, because they do that all for you. It's not like I'm sitting in the garage and actually, putting together all these packages. And, that also includes PPC. So $10 in Amazon fees, $5 for the product from China per unit. I'm making a profit of $15. So the same profit, it just, it cost me a little bit more money to start, but I didn't have to go and learn Facebook ads, which can have a steep learning curve. And, I didn't have to actually learn any kind of marketing. I just put it up on Amazon, launch some basic PPC, and boom, I'm selling. But with this, if I sell all 300 units, I make $4,500 in profit. And next time, let's say I reorder 1,000 units, because now I'm sure that the product will sell, so obviously I'm gonna order more, I make even more profit, so $15,000 in profit. And then at 3,000 units, I make $45,000 in profit. And on Amazon, it's relatively easy to get to 1,000 to 3,000 units per month. And once it's ranked on Amazon, I don't have to spend any more hours or any more time keeping it ranked. I don't have to spin a hamster wheel to just basically keep it in that place. The system is all set up, it's there. All I have to do is make sure that I don't run out of stock, and the sales will keep coming in every day. So you can see that with both of these business models that I talked about, they follow that golden rule of not having to sell your time for money, being totally independent of having to sell your life at an hourly wage. And with both of these businesses, we can add products, we can scale, we can automate them, and we can do what's called building a brand. And that's where the real gold is in e-commerce. When you build a brand, you build something called brand reputation, you get word of mouth marketing, so your customers are happy and they go and they talk about your brand. And so you also build trust, and you can just go and keep adding products and basically remarket to your same customers, and they'll keep buying. It's always easier to basically sell to the same customer than to acquire a new customer. Now, the next example I want to give you of a great business model is my education business. So when I first started selling on Amazon FBA and I became successful with it, I started to get friends and family asking me like, hey, can you teach me how to do this? Because I want to do this too. They obviously wanted to, quit their jobs, and they wanted to basically either establish like a side hustle, or they wanted to go full into online business and basically build an Amazon FBA business. So I said, yeah, I can. And so, I noticed that it started to take a lot of my time. And so I started to charge for it, and I started to charge, it was like $100 an hour for it to like friends who wanted to learn it. And I thought to myself, okay, it's just going to be easier if I make YouTube videos, and through that I can do one-on-one consulting calls. And so that's what I did. I started my YouTube channel, and then I started to make videos talking about the strategies that were working for me for building my Amazon FBA business. And what I noticed was that I started to get more and more clients. And so now I had my Amazon FBA business, and I also had all these consulting clients. But the problem was that I fell back into the trap of having to sell my life for money, my time for money. And I only had 24 hours in a day. So even if I got like 15 clients a day and I charged $100 an hour, let's say, that would only be $1,500 a day. And that would be my absolute maximum that I could make. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, wait a second. There has to be like a way of making this not dependent on my time. And around the same time, I started to get a lot of my subscribers, a lot of people that were watching my videos, they started to message me and they were asking me, hey, Dan, when are you going to release a course? Like if you just put together a step-by-step training, like a video series, I could follow it, and you maybe included some mentorship, some coaching, I would definitely pay, pretty high for it. And so I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So I basically put my all, like literally my all. I spent months perfecting the best possible course. I put everything that I knew about Amazon FBA into it, and I launched it to the public, and it blew up. And combining all these business models together, so Shopify, Amazon, and my online education business, that's how I was able to make $1 million in a relatively short period of time at the age of 22. So now you're probably wondering, okay, Dan, that sounds great, but what exact business model should I follow if my goal is to get rich in a relatively short period of time? Well, apart from the business models that I talked about, we have what's called a startup. We can launch a startup. And honestly, when I was in university, when I was in college, that was like basically the preached way of getting rich. And, I thought that I had to start the next Uber, the next Airbnb to go and actually be able to, make $1 million or make a lot of money at a young age. And so with a startup, yeah, like it's interesting, you can go and basically find a new technology and create a company out of that. It doesn't always have to be like a new technology, but with a startup, it really only starts to pay you money when it gets massive, right? When it's small, it's just not big enough to actually make you an income. And also you're dependent on outside investment. So with a startup, typically you would need to get investors, right? Because it's not cheap to actually develop a product. And what happens then is that when you get investors, they actually have full control over your product. website and you can't do whatever you want. You're basically at their mercy and you have to follow all their directions because they own a percent of your company. And apart from that, there's also a huge amount of competition. There are new startups coming out every single day with like mostly really stupid startup ideas, right? There's only a few that really succeeded because the ideas were so great. And also, inventing something is just difficult in and of itself. So that was the first way. Okay, we can launch startups. What about the next one? So, okay, we can start like a physical business. For example, like a restaurant, a store, a nightclub, right? All these businesses, they're easier to start than a startup, but they require a lot of money to start. So it typically would cost you at least hundreds of thousands of dollars to even open a restaurant. And then also like the potential for growth is much, much lower than a startup because, you know, you can only have so many people in a restaurant at a time and you can only have so many people in a nightclub at a time, and nightclubs aren't really scalable, right? You would really have to keep opening nightclubs around the country, around the world to really, you know, make huge profits. And these are also not necessarily easy to start while young, and they require a lot of capital, and sometimes they're just a pain. So now we're brought to like the third business, the third type of business that we can start. And this is what's called a cash flow business. And I like to call this a cash flow business because it allows us to create cash flow without having to put in a lot of money into it. And so that's exactly the two businesses that I talked about, the two e-commerce businesses, Shopify dropshipping and Amazon FBA. They're cash flow businesses. And so to start a cash flow business, you don't need to be some kind of innovator or inventor. You don't have to take a massive amount of risk. You definitely don't need to start the next Airbnb or the next Uber. You don't need a lot of money to start. All you need is just to copy what's working out there for other successful people in cash flow businesses and just do it a little bit differently and a little bit better. And how you do it a little bit better, you might be asking, how do I actually do this a little bit better? Is to actually just basically work harder at it, work smarter, put your own twist on it, right? You have your own unique skills and strengths that you can apply to any particular product or service and just make it better that way, right? It's all up to you. What I always say is you don't have to reinvent the wheel and you can just copy what's working and just do it a little bit better. And so you can use cash flow businesses to make your first, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, and even your first $1 million online. And then after that, we can go back to the other two types of businesses that I talked about, which was launching a startup or starting traditional businesses using the money that you actually made from your cash flow business, right? Because now we have the money to go and start our own startup. Let's say that you're passionate about a certain technology and now you want to, launch a company with like infinite scalability and infinite potential. Now you don't have to rely on outside investors. You can just use your own money to start because you've made already hundreds of thousands and millions from your cash flow business, from Shopify or from Amazon. And that allows you to diversify your source of income and really create an empire of wealth that will allow you to live the life that you want to live for the rest of your life. So I hope that gave you clarity based on my experience of the best method to get rich in a relatively fast way. We talked about the facts that you don't have to be talented, you don't have to be some kind of a special person, right? This works for everyday people. And I'm sure that, some of you watching right now, and I hope that that's you, that you're gonna go take this advice and you'll put it into practice. And in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you're gonna come back to this video and you're gonna say, hey Dan, I made it. And so if you wanna learn two amazing cash flow businesses, the ones that I mentioned here in this video, Shopify dropshipping and selling on Amazon FBA, I actually have two amazing videos right here. I broke down every single thing you need to know to actually get started making money with Shopify dropshipping and with Amazon FBA. I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, tell me what you think about all the methods that I talked about, and I'll see you soon.